Hello there and welcome to another Why You Lost. This time the Vampire Counts versus the Dark Elves. First off, thanks to Jagjedabo for sending me this replay. Let's see where he went wrong. So we're on the Athel Tamara map, a pretty hilly one with a bit of a centerpiece to work around. So his army looking pretty large, got a lot of zombos. His enemy has deployed mostly down the hill, so giving himself an uphill fight. I'm not sure where the deployment zones are, but I think they're higher up than that. Anyway, Jag's got a whole bunch of zombies up front, as you do, some skeleton warriors behind, and then 2 units of Graveguard great weapons, so some armor-piercing power there. The Lord is Vlad, and he is the only character on the field, and then out wide he's got 2 units of Blood Knights, perhaps a little bit tightly packed, and then a Vargolf going around with those as well. So that's the most of his army, that's the main bulk of his army, but he also has 2 units of Direwolves hidden in the back corner here, and then 1 over in the other corner as well. So he's coming in with the flanking Direwolves, always a nice plan. Now, one minor mistake to talk about first of all that a lot of new players make with multiplayer is that they don't spread their units wide enough. You probably heard me mention it a million times before. You can see this unit, it's kind of like a short rectangle, when really it wants to be quite a long rectangle. This has 2 main purposes: to A, make the unit longer so you can make your line wider overall, and B, it helps you avoid artillery and missile fire. So if he'd spread all his units out completely wide, his army could maybe be this wide, and then it'd be a lot easier for him to flank with the other stuff. It makes it easier to envelop your enemy, basically, if you have the longer, wider line. Over here, another issue, that 2 units inside each other is never really a good idea, because you basically make it easier for missiles and artillery to hit you. If missiles fire into that crowd of Blood Knights, they'll hit something, they won't miss. Whereas if it's 1 unit of Blood Knights, there's a lot of gaps between the cavalry, so missiles often fall in the ground. I think we may see a perfect example, actually. I think these repeater crossbows are moving up to take some shots. So you just want to spread these out and have them next to each other rather than inside each other. Like this, you can see all these missiles coming in. If there was a lot of space between each Blood Knight, those missiles would miss. But there is not a lot of space because they're packed inside each other. So you're kind of giving the enemy this little kill box that it could just fire roughly into the direction of, and it'll probably hit something. You really want to have the 2 units next to each other in 2 boxes rather than 1 dense box. So try not to put your units inside each other. Let's get this one moving now anyway. Zombies coming up, pushing back a couple of shade units. There's some hidden Blackout Corsairs around. Nothing behind. Got some Blackguard of Nagarond. A bunch more Corsairs. Some Dread Spears. So a fairly infantry heavy army. A Manticore. Malekith on a cold one. And a couple of units of repeater crossbows over here. And the Blood Knights are heading into the forest for some reason. They really should be pushing those repeater crossbows though, because they can only fire in one direction, and if you chase them, they can't do anything. He's also done well to get the Direwolves coming in after the right unit. He could sandwich them in between if he came in with these at the same time. If they're on auto skirmish, he might have skirmished them right into the Direwolves if he chased them, but he's going to pull them back behind his army by the looks of it. This might be lucky auto skirmishing, or maybe the player is managing it himself. But like I say, these only fire straight ahead of them, so if you chase them and just keep them moving, they can't actually do anything. And Direwolves are the perfect unit because they can just chase them around the map and stop them from firing the whole time. But some infantry starting to engage now. I'm not sure where the Dark Elves army is going. Pulls these Direwolves back though, sees the bad play that would be to let them keep going forward into those spears, so gets them out well. Needs to bring them around now to try and get after those behind, those repeater crossbows. The Blood Knights and the Vargolf still just skirting around. Infantry still moving up. He's got a whole lot of infantry coming this way after the shades. He's got some doggos on the shades though. A nice play there. All these doggos are the perfect units to take care of shades and dark shards. Skirmish cav. He's got a lot of zombies. He's got too many units coming this way. He doesn't need all of this over here. Just the 2 units of zombies to just chase off the shades would be enough, and you could bring the rest over to help out with the frontline stuff. Now over here he's brought too much attention on a Manticore. This Manticore has flown down into his great swords and he is throwing fucking everything into it. For whatever reason, he's even spawned up some zombies to try and pin it in. And he's got a lot of the other Dark Elf infantry pinned down. What he needs is these great swords, these great weapons rather, to come up and start to engage these stronger units for the Dark Elves. The Blackguard Corsairs and the Blackguard of Nagarond. They're the answer to the Blackguard of Nagarond. They're very tough. The only armor-piercing strong unit he has in infantry is those Blackguards, so they can take them on. They're not going to beat them, but they'll do a lot of damage, enough so that someone else can finish them off. But still, he's bringing everything in on this Manticore for some reason. 2 units of Blood Knights, the Vargolf, Vlad. Still got the great weapons there. So that's like 5, 6, 7 grand's worth of units fighting 1 900 cost Manticore. Bit of a waste. Bit of overkill trying to take out that Manticore there. We don't need so much killing power on 1 goddamn unit. What we need is to help all the infantry that is mostly just holding stuff in place. Because the skeletons and the zombies, they're not going to kill anything. They need the Blood Knights and the Vargolf and the great weapons to kill things. So that's what he needs to be doing while he's got everything bogged down and pinned down. Got these Black Ark Corsairs. They're all just waiting there with their backs exposed to be hammer and anviled by something. This stuff is just for slowing things down, just for getting in the way. It's not going to win the battle for you. You need to get those Blood Knights in there, getting the hammer and anvil, getting the Vargolf into those Black Ark Corsairs. Beat them down. Got some dire wolves coming around the back. He's got the other shades dead to rights if he wants them. Also got those repeater crossbows potentially if he wants them. The other unit over here has been mismicroed and is fighting spears, so he needs to pull those away. Maybe he can save them, get them to do something useful. But he has all the tools here. He's got all the tools to take out everything that the Dark Elves has. He's got the Blackguard of Nagaron to deal with. Well, he's got those great weapons. He's got the Shades and the Skirmish Cav to deal with. He's got the Dire Wolves. He's got Vlad here who can deal with some of these Black Ark Corsairs, along with anything else, the Vargolf maybe. He's got all the tools, he just needs to get them into the right targets. Trying to chase these repeater crossbows, these dogs, yet to be microed. But this is just part of being a newer player in multiplayer. You've got to get used to the fast micro. It's very different from campaign where you can pause or slow down if you want to. And over here, the Cardinal Sin, forgetting about a unit of Graveguard great weapons has just been left here doing nothing. He's just forgotten about them. He did mention this when he sent me the replay, so he knows he did that, which is obviously going to have hurt him a fair bit because they are a unit that could have done a lot of damage. He is starting to flank around and pin things in with the zombies. Does still have the Blackguard to deal with though. This is where he's going to need those Graveguard with great weapons. And this is why you don't clump up your units. A Blade Wind coming in on those 2 units of Blood Knights, putting them mostly in the bin. They should be getting heals all the time as well. It looks like he went after some Dread Spears to take them out. So he's not really getting the right targets. He's not prioritizing the strong, dangerous targets to his army. He's taken out the weak, crappy stuff. He's taken out a unit of Dread Spears and a Manticore so far with the Blood Knights. Neither things that are a big threat to his success. He needs to be trying to use his strong units to get rid of the enemy strong units. The Blackguard, the Black Ark Corsairs, the Shades, the repeater crossbows. He's got these Blackguard here for a hammer and anvil in the back if he wants them. I think they're facing the other way. Also got these. He could still try and pin down. He's got them there if he wants them. Go, 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 go. No! Oh, he's gone back fighting this Dread Spears. I'm not sure if he's been caught by it or whether he's issued the orders to go and fight them, but he's missing a lot of opportunities for rear charges. Blood Knights are very strong. They don't just need to fight large stuff because they're anti-large. They can hammer and anvil any kind of infantry. If it's anti-large, you don't want to stick around too long, but you can still hammer it. These Dire Wolves finally getting an order to get after the Shades. Might get the crossbows. No, they're going to get away, but he is going to get those Shades. Still over here. Now he's fighting the Blackguard and Nagarond. He's given the order to attack the Blackguard when he's already in combat with them. He needs to get those out of there. Blood Knights have a huge charge bonus and they need to make the most of it by cycle charging. Charge in, attack for about 15 seconds, 20 seconds, and then get out of there. Do the same again to a different unit. Over here, Vlad's throwing down with Malekith, and it seems like Vlad actually has a bit of an issue. He can't seem to hit anything. Even though he's got 70 melee attack, he seems to miss Malekith a lot here. He hit him once there. There's a missed attack. There's another one, or maybe that one changed into a cast, so maybe that one didn't count. He's only done a tiny bit of damage to Malekith so far. There's a hit right in his side as well. Nope, that missed as well. There's another hit, missed again. This is Vlad with 70 goddamn melee attack. He shouldn't be missing this often. Seems a little strange. He's trying to get out of there now. Malekith does have okay melee defense. Maybe that's what was causing him to miss, but to miss so often, it seems a little off. There's probably a few shots before that he missed as well. The Vargolf and the Blood Knights, though, still just skirting around. Not really going for any dangerous targets. That Vargolf's in full health. It's mostly just been running around. You need to get it into combat. Let it do some work. Get it after those Black Ark Corsairs. That's a good matchup for it. They're good at killing infantry, just as long as it isn't anti-large. But that, for the most part, is going to be his downfall because he's going to lose his Blood Knights. His zombies and skeletons aren't going to do any damage. They're just there to hold things down, and they can only fight so long until they run out of juice. And that is what's going to happen. Vlad got killed as well, so it's a GG. So not getting the money's worth there out of his powerful units. The Vargolf, the Blood Knights, maybe Vlad as well. Did get some work out of the dogs perhaps, and the Graveguard with great weapons, obviously missed opportunities. Vlad not doing a ton. Skeleton Warriors and Zombies not going to do a great deal. Great weapons, one of them did okay, the other one completely forgotten, so that's obviously a big hurt to his damage output. The Blood Knights, not a great deal, 700 for that one. One of the Hounds doing well. Those Dire Wolves, 1200, that's good work, munching on those Shades. And the Vargolf couldn't do a lot either. For the enemy, Malekith, oh, look at that. Malekith, 5,600 damage. I actually went back to check where that all came from. That Blade Wind on those 2 bunched up Blood Knights, that was 1,700 right there in one go. The rest was mostly Vlad. So yeah, don't bunch up your Blood Knights. A lot of the other infantry, the powerful ones, getting a good bit of work, fairly spread out damage in other areas. He did manage to stop those shades pretty well and some of the repeater crossbows a little bit, but for the most part, he didn't utilize his strength in the Blood Knights and the Vargolf. They mostly seem to just be running around rather than engaging targets. They need to be active. They need to be getting in there. They need constant heals as well. Charge them in, get them some cycle charging going. They'll do a lot of damage. But for the love of Nagash, spread them out. So this was Jag Jedibo's army. Overall, I think it was actually pretty good for dealing with the Dark Elves. He's got a lot of tools to deal with the Dark Elf strength, so he built it pretty well. Let's take a look at Vlad first of all. As we can see, he's got pretty much everything in terms of the abilities except for the Curse of Undeath, which I think is a mistake because that's literally hundreds of healing every time you cast. It's only 56 per unit, but consider that on every one of your units, that's hundreds of health you're going to be dropping. And when you've only got 2 spells like he does, Invocation and Raise Dead, those are both short cooldown spells, so you cast them quite often. Thus, that Curse of Undeath will be going off quite often. So, should have brought that definitely. If you really needed to drop something, you could have dropped this because we are a little bit over budget now. Drop that, -4 leadership, that's not a huge deal. It's only a 40-meter range. You could lose that if you really need to save the money. Got the other 3 though. Those are all pretty important. Master of Beguilement. Should have used that on Malekith when he was smashing his face in, so not sure if he used that or not at all. Had the 2 spells, like I said, Invocation and Raise Dead. That's all you really need from the Vampire lore. Got the 2 items as well, Blood Drinker for the extra regen and that damage resistance. Again, should have used that when Malekith was wailing on him, if he didn't. Or maybe it was on cooldown, maybe he'd already used it. But for the most part, just needed that Curse of Undeath. The frontline options are fine, just a lot of zombies and skeletons. Just that cheap infantry to bog everything down. They're not going to do the damage. They're just trying to control the enemy so that they can't really move and maneuver how they like. And then you bring in the big dangerous stuff to try and hurt them and get those bad matchups. The 2 units of Graveguard Great Weapons, a good choice. They're going to counter Executioners or Blackguard. They're not going to beat those outright, but they can put enough damage on them so that, as I said earlier, something can come along and finish them off. Could have maybe opted for some Kern Wraiths. If you mix those in with the zombies, it'll help take the damage off them even more than they avoid damage, so could have been an option there. 2 Blood Knights, fine picks, always, pretty much always need Blood Knights in any build against any army. They're one of their strongest units. Just need to keep the heals on them though, and obviously not keep them mixed inside each other. 3 units of Direwolves might seem like a lot, but I think it's worthwhile. There's a lot of dangerous missiles on the Dark Elves, the Dark Shards, the Shades, repeater crossbows. Those are always going to be useful against the Dark Elves. The Vargolf, maybe a little bit of a risky pick because it doesn't have a lot of armor, and if he did have a lot more missiles and they did shoot the Vargolf, that Vargolf would be gone pretty quick with its lack of armor, armor-piercing missiles. It just would have got melted if it got focus fired. But that being said, it could do some good work to some of the infantry as it is an anti-infantry monster. So not a bad pick by any means. Overall, I think this army is pretty decent. I think it's been built pretty well. I don't think there's anything that desperately needs to change. You just needed to use the units better and to get the damage out of those more powerful units. I think this battle was played in multiplayer custom battles though, because there's 6 zombies. Normally you'd be limited to 5 if unit caps was on. But just to give some other ideas and to throw other things around, we'll lose 1 unit of zombies and the Vargolf. This gives us some money to play with. Maybe lose another unit of skeletons as well. We don't need a ton of infantry. This could get us another unit of Blood Knights. Just for the love of God, do not put them all inside each other. 3 units. You could get some Chillgeists instead. They're good with their Vanguard deployment. They can help with those crossbows or with the Shades. You could maybe lose some Doggos as they kind of replace what the Doggos are doing. Keep 1 Doggos around, get some Bats instead. Those could help catch things like those repeater crossbows. Bats can catch them, Dogs can eat them, Chillgeists can eat them, Blood Knights can eat them. That's another option. We could go for some Vargeists though, and go for a bit more flyer heavy. Maybe those and those as well. So we could go for a little bit more of a flyer army. Those could be good for pushing after any Dark Shards, any Shades. Again, repeater crossbows, all the missiles basically. Those fast flying units could do some work, but they could also help with infantry as well. Flank around, hit stuff in the back, get the hammer and anvil with the flyers, along with those Blood Knights. As I mentioned, we could replace the Graveguard Great Weapons with some Kern Wraiths, although I'm not sure how many physical resistances are in the Dark Elves army, because Kern Wraiths bring magic attacks, which could be useful if there was a lot of physical resistances in an army, but there isn't too many in the Dark Elves. Only a few here and there, so maybe the ethereal units aren't of great use against the Dark Elves so much. At least not to negate the power of physical resistances. There's still some use to them for sure, but for the most part, I think, like I said, what his army already was fine. We could try this little flyer heavy build if we want to have some fun with it. We could try and bring a Terrorgeist because that's always useful. Some nice anti-large in there as well in case there was any of those Dark Elf monsters, the Charybdis or a Hydra. You might see those. So we could lose the Vargeist, bring back the Direwolves with a Terrorgeist. The Dire Pack could be a good pick actually against those repeater crossbows as they're anti-large. If they get a hold of those repeater crossbows, they'll be done. So a few different options there on how to tackle the Dark Elves as the vampire counts. But like I said, his build in the first place didn't really need any changes, desperately. He had the army that could have beaten that Dark Elf army. He had all the tools there, he had the crappy infantry to bog everything down, he had the great weapons to deal with the Blackguard and the Corsairs, he had the Vargolf to deal with the Corsairs, he had the Blood Knights that could deal with pretty much everything cycle charging it, he had the Direwolves that could deal with the repeater crossbows and the Shades. He had all the tools, just didn't quite manage them correctly, wasted some of his more expensive powerful units, and couldn't quite bring home the victory. But there you go. Thanks for watching, hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks again to Jack Jedabo for sending me the replay. See you in the future.